Hi everyone, this is Maggie Ostara and I am delighted to be here on the Quantum Alignment Show. And today I want to share with you messaging by design, how to attract your best clients with greater ease and consistency based on human design. Oops, here, there we go. And so I want to come on and say hi and be able to see you and have you be able to see me. And it's really exciting for me to be here with you today. Karen is a wonderful teacher. I feel very honored to have been mentored by her and taught by her. And I feel like her particular way of approaching human design is really kind of on the leading edge of the evolution of human design for the 21st century. And so one of the things that I want to do is be able to bring human design and how in our community we really interpret it together with business. Some of you may know me, probably most of you don't know anything about me, so I just want to share a little bit and to say I've been involved in really consciousness and transformation for most of my adult life, but in many different venues, different industries with different populations. Starting out being a women's and gender studies professor at an Ivy League university. That was my first career. And then having 4 different businesses in the last 22 years now, both in the healing arts and in more in the coaching fields. And one of the things that I have done that is particularly relevant to what we're going to talk about today is having been a business coach for people in the healing arts and the transformational fields. Where I developed a lot of major programs for people around marketing, particularly online marketing, online education, and helping people who have a body of work be able to get that body of work out of their mind and out of just their practice into programs, into a book, into videos or blogs or whatever that is, because many people become very expert while they are working one-on-one with people. And that's actually the best way to develop your expertise, is to be really working in the trenches one-on-one with clients. That's how you really learn what it is that you're doing. But then there comes a certain point when you want to be able to leverage that expertise that you have. You want to be able to get your wisdom out into the world in a bigger way. And that's also when messaging becomes really important. A lot of times if you're working more like you have a private practice, many times you're going to be getting clients through referrals or through you just being able to talk one-on-one with people. But when you want to have your business become larger and you want to be able to leverage your expertise, then messaging becomes more important. And I've loved messaging. I've been working on it for many years, have lots of programs on it. And now I'm bringing human design in to help us to understand messaging on many other levels and also to make it easier. So I'm delighted to be able to present that to you today. I wanted to give you some information about how you can connect with me. I'm going to go ahead and put these on. These are my blue light reducing glasses, and they're actually awesome. They're also cheaters, so I love that. So I'll probably have them on again. But I wanted to let you know how you can get a hold of me. I know some of you are going to be on more at the beginning. You might not be on all the way at the end. So let me go ahead and share my screen again so you can see that piece. And I'll tell you basically what that is. Okay. So I'd love to stay connected with you if you are interested in what it is I have to share today or the different things that I talk about. You can reach me directly at admin@ostaraexperience.com. We'll go ahead and put that in the chat so that you know that you can reach me that way. It's admin@ostara, O-S-T-A-R-A, experience.com. I'm also going to be offering a human design chart. Probably many of you have your chart, but I'm going to also be offering an introductory reading. We take about a half an hour, 15 minutes of it is really looking at your chart, but we also spend a little bit of time getting to know each other and then reviewing what your biggest takeaways are. I've been doing a lot of these. I've done almost 100 of them in the last couple of months. They've been really fun and really exciting to do. People have gotten a lot out of them, but they're also now only a limited number that are going to be left. I'm going to be doing a couple of months in October. a couple of weeks in October. And so if you are interested in that, I encourage you to go and register for this right away. And you just go to yoursoulsdesign.com/human design chart, and you can register there, and you give me your birth information so I can run your chart, so I have your chart. And then also, then you'll get an email so you can schedule to have that time with me. So I encourage you to do that if you're interested in what it is that I have to share with you today, and you want to stay connected. All right. So I want to just talk a little bit. I'm going to come back on. And I want to see you. Where are you? There you are. Hi. Going back and forth is a little bit odd, but I also like to be able to kind of communicate with you a little bit more directly and not only through the PowerPoint. So let's talk about messaging, and let's talk about business, and let's talk about some of the pitfalls that I have seen. So like I said, I've done a lot of work as a business coach, working with people in the healing arts. I'm not doing that so much directly now. I'm more doing business consulting, but I am wanting to do training around how human design can help us understand how to do our business better. And so I am in the process of creating programs around that, and I will be doing one on messaging in November, so I'll tell you more about that later. But I have, like I said, done a lot of work with people around their messaging, and one of the biggest issues, the biggest mistakes that I see people make when they are trying to express, to connect with people, and in a networking situation, or even in a social situation, and somebody says, what do? Tell me about your work. And what happens is very often what people do is they start to describe the modality that they have. So if we just use human design as an example, somebody might say to you, oh, so, tell me what you do. And you might say, well, I'm a specialist in human design. And they would say, well, what is that? And then you start to tell them, well, it has to do with your type and your strategy. It has to do with your authority. It has to do with, there's 9 different centers, and there's 36 channels, and there's 36 channels, 64 different archetypes. And you start to go into what this system looks like. And pretty soon the person who you're talking to, their eyes glaze over because they can't really take in that much information in that way. But I know people who do all kinds of different work, and they've often come to me as a business coach and said, I can't seem to explain to people what it is that I do. They don't ever get it, and they kind of turned off by that. And so I want to alleviate any concern you have about that if you've had that experience, which is just to say, stop trying. Stop trying to explain whatever your modality is, and particularly if you have multiple, because many of us, have multiple modalities. Like I know I'm a clarity breath worker, I'm an awakening your light body teacher, I'm a human design specialist, I'm a business coach, I'm a spiritual guide, I've been trained in Reiki and character structures and the subpersonalities from, the luminescence. I mean, I could go on with the list of things that I've been trained in, and probably some of you, can do that too. People can't absorb that kind of information. It doesn't really land for them. And so what I want to do is help, give you permission to stop trying to share with people what your modality is, and make a shift around being able to relate to them, and how your being, a lot of it has to do with your being, and then it has to do with your relationship with them and your understanding of who your right tribe is, who your people are, and how you can relate to them in such a way that you become visible, you become recognizable, and they start going, oh, that's me, she's talking about me. So then they become interested in taking the next step with you. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the 4 cornerstones of messaging, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a slide and give you, some of that written material in just a second. But to preface this, to create some context, I want you to know that you are always, always, always sending out a message. You can't not send out a message. It's not possible. Even without saying anything, you're sending out a message. And you probably know this, right? You know it intuitively, even if you haven't sat down and thought about it. But it's really important for you to take this in and go, oh, That's right. Even if I think I'm hiding, even if I'm, kind of in the back of the room, or even if I'm being quiet, I'm still sending out a message. And so rather than having that message be unconscious or out of your awareness, you're not knowing what it is. My invitation to you is discover how to take command of your messaging and what you're transmitting to people all the time. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So messaging is so much more than your words. And let's go ahead and pull up a slide here. Okay. Okay, so the 4 cornerstones of messaging are really all about you, okay? And I want to bring them up because these are the things that you actually have control over. There are many, 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 many things in life that we have no control over at all. But you do have control over these parts of your life. So one is your words, okay? We often think of messaging as just having to do with words, but it's so much more than words, right? But words are really important, and we will talk about that a little bit more today. But words are really only part of the situation. There's also the images and the colors and the design that you use. We live now in a very online environment. And so when you're doing your messaging, it's not just the words that you say. It's not even just the words that are on your website or on your business card, or if you're still printing brochures, doing things like that. It's not just that. It's also the images, the colors, and the design. And this is, in the branding world, we call this your visual identity. A lot of times people think that's your brand. It's actually not your brand. Your brand it really takes in all of this, what we're going to talk about today. Because your brand is a desired perception. And how do you create a desired perception in your people? It's through your messaging. So this is how you express your brand. And one aspect of that is the images, colors, and design that you use. And you want those to be very congruent with who you are and with what it is that you're offering. Then there's also the tone of your voice, right? And your body language. Have you ever heard that up to, I think it's 80% of what is being communicated to people is nonverbal? When you're with them, 80%, I mean, think about that for a minute. That's an awful lot. That's an awful lot. So part of it is the tone with which you're speaking. Part of it is the body language. And then part of it is going to be your energy and your frequency. And so these are the aspects that you want to be able to get a handle on so that you are using them consciously rather than having them be something that you're really not aware of. And the place where this is most going to show up for you, right, is in tone and body language and in your energy. Your words, hopefully, you're going to have a better understanding of. And one of the things with your words, because we're moving into such an internet-based business environment, the words are becoming much, much fewer, right? What you see on websites today is fewer. So there's an economy of words. So it's really important to be able to know how your words are transmitting what it is that you want to say through the words that you're using. One of the things that you can do is to be looking at, are there places where you tend to use jargon that is based in the things that you've been trained in? Many different modalities have their own language. And that's fine. It's if you're going to become an expert in that area, you're going to learn the jargon of that. We go back to human design, again, some of that is the things that I mentioned before, right? Type, strategy, authority, the centers, the channels, the gates. All of that is nomenclature, are words that are used routinely inside of the world of human design, but they mean nothing to the people who are outside the world of human design. And so if you aim to use those words with people who don't know what human design is, or even just know a little bit about human design, but aren't experts in it, they're not really going to get what you're talking about. The words that you use are going to be about two things. And we're going to go over some of this today. It's going to be about what people are going to receive as a result of working with you. Okay, the benefits that they're going to get. We'll come down to this in a minute. And then also the outcomes that they're looking for. What is it that they can get from working with you? Those are the things that you want your words to focus on. Okay. The images, colors, and design, it's really important to be having this in alignment with the kind of feeling state that you want your people to experience when they are on your website or when they're looking at your business card or anything that you have where you can be using images, color, and design. It is worth it to engage a graphic designer, ideally somebody who understands about branding, who can help you put something together that really feels right to you and also feels right to your tribe. So there's a meeting between those places. Again, you don't want it to be too out there so that they don't understand it. If all you use, again, if we use human design as an example, if all you used was the human design chart, that wouldn't mean a lot to people. But if you did something to it that made it compelling to your people, designed for them, then that might be. So think about what that might be for your business or for your practice. Tone and body language. This really has a lot to do with embodiment. Okay, it really has a lot to do with how much are you actually in your body as opposed to being up in your head, which is how we're all taught to be, or being actually outside your body a little bit. A lot of times people are a little bit outside their body. They're not even in there, and then they're not very aware of what their body is doing. Okay, so when you are communicating with people, when you are with them in person, or if you're even like this on Zoom, somewhere where people can see you, you want to, as much as possible, develop some practices to really ground yourself and really get yourself in your body. And according to human design, if you notice, like the motors in human design, where all the power is in your lower body, and 3 of them are in your pelvis. They're low in the body. And so you want to get down into your power centers, and you can just breathe down into your power centers and feel that. And everything emanates from your power centers. But if you get all captured up here in the head in the ajna, right, you're going to be like a talking head, and you're not going to be so aware either of the tone of your voice. If you have an open throat, you really need to pay attention to that. What's the tone that's coming out? And then be aware that you want to come down into your body. Now, your energy and your frequency, this is one of the places where human design really comes in and helps us out. And we're going to talk about that more in a minute. Okay, so let me move on to the next slide. Knowing your human design can really help. So there are a few different things that I want to point to here. So one is your type and your strategy. Okay, so some of this language is going to be human design language because that's exactly what we're talking about. But let me translate this into more everyday language. So your type and your strategy is basically understanding how you fundamentally process energy. How does that work for you? And there's many nuances that you can go into when you get deeper into your design, but what your type is, and there's only 5 of them, what your type is and what the strategy is for your type will help you to understand your energy a lot better. And it'll help you understand your frequency and whether or not you're in alignment with your frequency. My experience is that many, the majority of people that I have done readings for and that I just know are not in alignment with their strategy by type. And that is largely because most of us are generators. The majority of the population are generators. 70% of us are generators. The other largest population are projectors. 20%, that's 90% of the population, and none of us are designed to initiate. Okay, we're designed to respond or to be invited. And so most of us are going out there and operating against our type and against our strategy, and that is going to make us be wonky with our frequency and with our energy. So one of the first things that you can do, if you don't already know, is to discover what your type is and what your strategy is, and begin to play around with that. I like to say, believe nothing, entertain possibilities, and just give it a try. You know, Ra, who even was the one who received and then developed human design to begin with, said, I'm not here to try to persuade you about anything. I'm inviting you to give it a try and to see, does it work for you? Okay, so I'm suggesting that you do the same thing, because when you can get an alignment with your design, and especially with your type and your strategy, just on that baseline, what'll happen is that suddenly all the energy that you actually do have reliable, ongoing, consistent access to will become available to you, as opposed to you working against it. And you'll also get in tune with universal energy that is going to be, you know, that proverbial flow, right? You're going to get in the proverbial flow where you're tapped into energy that is even much larger just than yours. Okay, another piece of human design is your circuitry. Now, this is kind of complicated, and people don't necessarily talk about this a lot, but you know, until you get a reading. But the point that I want to mention to you here, and that has really jumped out to me in doing a lot of readings, is that there are different ways of knowing. Different ways of knowing. There is logic, which we're all familiar with because we were all trained in order to know things by logic. The scientific method is based in logic, right? And it's about, can we prove it? Can we replicate it? How do we know if it's true? It's based in, you know, doubt and suspicion. It's like we have to be able to prove it, and we have to be able to prove it over and over and over again in order to know that it's true. So there is not intuition here. There is not faith here. This is very much about analysis and replication, okay? So if you have a lot of circuitry in that area, you have that kind of knowing. And like I said, we're all have been trained to do this. It's also very cerebral, generally speaking, and it's very analytical. But there's also the knowing circuit, which is where you just know things. You don't know how you know them, you just know them. I have a lot of the knowing circuit, and it's something I always called my intuition through my life. And it's just something that I know. I know that I know. If you ask me how I know it, I wouldn't be able to tell you. It's not something that I learned in a book. It's not something I took a class in, but it is something that I know really deep into the core of my being. And I get information like this all the time. And then the third one is sensing. Sensing is another way of knowing. And when you have sensing, you learn through experience, and you learn through what it feels like in your body. Okay? Again, both knowing and sensing are not logical. They're not rational. They're not reasonable. It's not replicatable, and it's not provable. And so the reason I mention this here under frequency and energy, and this of course is going to affect your body language, it's going to affect your tone, is that if you have a lot of the knowing circuit or a lot of the sensing circuit, and you have not been honoring it, because you were not trained that it was valuable, which most of us were not. I know I certainly wasn't. It wasn't until my 40s that I really started to own that part of me. And I've talked to many clients who've really suppressed that. Well, that's going to screw up your frequency too, if you think about it. This is a core part of who you are. It's a core part of how you process energy and how energy moves through your body. And if you're always rejecting it or always suppressing it, it's going to lower your frequency. It's going to make your energy wonky, and you don't even know why exactly. But again, you're not in alignment with your design. So the next one is your decision-making process, right? This is how do you make decisions. This has to do with your inner authority. I'm not going to go into all the different types of inner authority and how you utilize them. But one of the hugest benefits that you can get from human design, in my view, is to understand your specific decision-making process. The one thing I do know for sure, it's not to make decisions with your head. Right? That's one of the things for proverbs that we say in human design is don't make decisions with your head. There's no power in your head. Your head is there for inspiration, for information, for analysis, for thinking. It's highly valuable. You want to be able to utilize all of that, but you don't make decisions there. You make decisions down in your body or through talking out what it is that you're considering, and having a really profound listener. But again, even in that case, you want to be down in your body. Again, we're talking about embodiment here. And so when you can discover and practice and master the decision-making process that is right for you based on your design, your whole energy field and your frequency will change. Your body language would change because your confidence in your decisions and in your direction and what you're doing in life will go up immensely. So this is another way that understanding your design can help you. And then finally, understanding your open centers. So your open centers, and this is also true for the gates and the channels, but let's just stay with the open centers. The open centers are the places where you are likely to have been conditioned by outside forces, particularly your family of origin and the people that you grew up around. Although it can be true also by who you're around now and who you've been around through the different points in your life. Because we take in, wherever we're open, we take in that energy from other people and we amplify it. And if we're getting the same kind of energy over and over and over and over, like we do with the people we grew up with, right, we can get very imprinted with that energy and we can think that it's ours. And we can take on the belief system that goes along with that. Again, this might be a way that you have been not living in alignment with your circuitry because through your open centers, you took in a belief system that really believed in logic and didn't believe in intuition. That's just one example. Or didn't believe in making decisions with your gut, for example, right? Which is, you know, for us generators, we make decisions with our gut and we pay attention to our emotions while we're doing that. You may have a belief system that you took in and that you imprinted that does not value that, doesn't honor it. So this is a place where we can remove the conditioning that we have in our open centers. We can get more back in alignment with who we really are. Again, this is going to immensely affect our energy and our frequency. That will affect our tone. It'll affect our body language. It'll also affect, and this is a key piece, how we can actually relate to who our people are. Because otherwise, we're kind of really all caught up in our own energy and what's going on there. We're using a lot of our natural resources to suppress ourselves or to redirect ourselves rather than just being in an open flow state and being able to utilize everything that is here for us. Okay, so we're going to switch here. Let's all take a big breath. I'm going to take a sip of water. Well, that water bottle looks even bigger on the screen there. Go ahead. I want to just say, if you have questions or comments, you know, please do put them in if you're on Facebook, put them in there, or put questions on Zoom. I'll be able to respond to them at the end. Okay, we're gonna switch now from talking about what it is, the kind of message that you need to be creating, and what's going on inside of you, and how you can take command of your own messaging of what you're transmitting out, right, all the time, by getting more in alignment with your human design. And I do want to let you know that in the program I'm going to be teaching later in the fall, I will go much more into specifics about some of the phrasing and words, but this piece is also going to help us get that. Okay, so in order to know what the message is, you have to get the message from your people. You have to get their messaging from them in order to be able to give your message effectively. And the reason for this is that you need to get in tune with what's going on with your tribe, who your people are. I know, and I just want to say, sometimes this really makes people go into paralysis if you have trauma around trying to develop your niche or trying to develop your ideal client. I really invite you to just take a breath, ground yourself, and know that this can be easier than maybe you've thought it was in the past, and that it also doesn't have to be a straitjacket. This is meant to make life easier for you, not more difficult. And if you find yourself getting your knickers all in a twist, you know, try to just take it more lightly. You know, in the longer programs that I have a bunch of different strategies to teach you about how to do this. Okay, so there are 3 things that you need to know about your ideal clients. okay? There's 3 things that you need to know about them in order to be able to design your message so that it is right for them. Okay, so the first one is, what are they moving away from, right? What are the pains, problems, and issues that are driving them to seek support? Because generally, when we're doing messaging, right, well, our purpose is to attract our ideal clients. So the people that we most want to work with. They're the people who can benefit the most from the services, and the products, if you have products or programs that you provide. And so you want to be able to interface with people at the moment that they're looking for support, right? And you need to realize that this is not about trying to find the people who need necessarily, in your mind, what you have to offer. It's at the moment when they are looking for support. And that's a really key distinction, because one of the things I have seen over and over again is practitioners or business owners who have services, particularly in the healing arts or transformational fields, who get fixated on people, that they run into or in their communities who they know need their services. And then they try to convince those people that they should work with them. If that person is not at the place where they're actually ready to shift and they're looking for support, they're not going to actually welcome what you're saying to them. They might much more take that on as you trying to tell them what to do. You're trying to push them, and they're not going to necessarily be receptive to what it is that you want to share at that moment. Doesn't mean they never will, but at that moment. And one of the things we learn from human design is timing is everything, right? Timing is everything. So this first point here is about being able to understand where people are at the time at which they are seeking support. They're actually going out, the kind of standard way of thinking about this is they're actually on their computer and they're putting something into their search engine to try to find support for what it is that they're doing. What are the words that they are putting into that search engine that are related to what it is that you have to offer, right? And so think about that for a minute. What might that be? What are the things, if you're a body worker, like there was one client I helped her develop her brand into pain relief and beyond. And because pain relief is something that people might be looking for, right? And she's an incredible body worker, and she actually specialized in helping people to alleviate pain. So she didn't tell people about how she alleviated pain, not initially, not in that little bit, but she did speak to the thing that they were looking for, right? So think about what are the pains, problems, or issues that are driving them to seek support. One of the ways that you can find this out, if you don't already know, is just go back through your last 10 best clients and think about where were they at when they came to you, right? If you don't know, go ask them. Just go ask them and say, what was going on for you when we met that made you want to start working with me? Okay, that's a really great way to do it, is just tap into the community that you already have and ask them. Then related to that is, what are they seeking, right? What are they moving toward? What are they seeking? What are the desires, outcomes, and results that they most want? Okay, so this isn't necessarily what you think they need. Again, I'm just going to make that distinction. This is about what they're looking for, or about what they most want. Again, if we think about pain relief and beyond, right, what are they looking for? They're looking for pain relief. Pain is the issue, relief is the outcome. So she's got both of them in there. And then she also, then the and beyond, suggests that there's a life beyond being able to get you out of pain, right? Which is the part where she actually gets the most excited. So people, unfortunately, often wait until their situation is kind of dire, until they move forward to try to get support. And they're often in pain. That could be physical pain. It could be emotional pain. Their relationship might be breaking up. They're headed for divorce. Their body is in pain. They could be in spiritual pain, where they feel really disconnected from their spiritual life. Their faith has has diminished. They look at what's going on in the world and they don't understand how they can go on living when they see the devastation that's happening to the planet. Those are all examples of pain that people have, right? Or they don't have enough money in their bank account, right? They have their own business, but they don't have enough money in their bank account and they don't know how they're going to go on. Or they have just enough in their bank account, but they don't have enough to take their family on the vacation that they want to. Or they don't have enough money to be able to to take the training that they want to on the next level, right? There's all kinds of different things that people are looking for. So the pain or the problems or the issues are often related to the things that they're looking for, right? Because they want relief initially from the thing that is driving them, that they're moving away from. And then what they want is what they're moving toward. And the better that you can actually express that to people, the more they're going to listen to what you have to say. Because when you're talking to them about what matters to them, that's when they're going to pay attention. If you try to explain your modality to them, or the practice that you have, or share, any of the, not even the details, even the outline of what it is that you've learned, that's not going to necessarily excite them. They could even be interested for a little while, like if they're a little bit of a geek in that area or a little bit of a nerd. I mean, I'm definitely that way. I like to learn about systems. I like to know how healing modalities work, but it doesn't necessarily make me want to work with the person unless I get a sense that they can get me. Okay, so you want to be able to speak to them in their language so that they know that you get them. Okay, so just think about that for a minute. You need to speak to them in their language so that they know that you get them. This is the key to powerful messaging. It also has to be in your energy field. It needs to be in the tone of your voice. It needs to be in your body language, right? It needs to be in your frequency. Your confidence and your clarity about your ability to give them what they're looking for. Now, you may know that you want to give them so much more that they're looking for, because maybe they're just looking for relief in this one area. And what you know is so much more is possible for them. And what you most desire is to help them reach much more of the potential that is available to them, right? Great. But they aren't going to really be interested in all that potential unless they know that you're going to be able to help them get out of the challenge that they have right now. Now, the one thing that I do know is when you work with more and more kind of people who've been doing their work, we can call them more evolved or more developed, when you do that, you tend to have people who are more interested in what they're moving towards and not necessarily as captured by the pains, problems, and issues that they do. There's kind of a continuum, right? From, the worst thing that they have over on this side, right? They're really mired in it. Like, let's say they're going through a divorce and it's just like all they can think about is the pain that they're in. And what they want to get to is a place where they can feel, comfortable being single. They can be in a good relationship with the person that they have divorced from, particularly if they have children. If they want to, they can feel clear to date in a really free way again. Their money situation is all lined up, right? And they can come to you at any point along that continuum. But you want to know what that continuum is, from the worst case of pain that they're in into the very best place where they want to go. And that's what you want to be able to speak to. Okay, so you need to know these things about your people, and you get to decide. And one of the things I want to say is you can go out and experiment and try on different things with different people. You can also just, when you talk to people, you can be like, tell me what's going on in your life. And then, that when they start telling you challenges, you can even say to them, what is it that, that you most want? And then you can practice articulating how what you have to provide to them is what it is they say they're looking for. So that's a little opportunity for you to go check that out, a little invitation, if you will. So the last thing that you need to know is, are they ready for change? Are they ready for change? And are they willing to invest in getting that change? Because people are not going to shift one day before they're ready. We kind of go back to this point about the, it's not the people that need your services, right? It's the people who are looking for your services. And some people can be looking, they're looking, but they still might not be ready to invest. Now, if they're ready, they're actually looking, but they haven't quite gotten to the point where they want to pay for it. One of the things you can do is you can develop different types of content and value that you can give them so that they can get to know, like, and trust you while they're getting ready to the point where they want to invest. And that is kind of, that's what we teach in online marketing, where you can give people, audios or videos or written material that is about, gives them some tips or some strategies, or gives them a meditation or a class that's either very low or free, so that they can really, it helps them get ready. It helps draw them in. And so that's one of the things you can do for those people who are, they're seeking, but they're not quite ready to invest. But what will happen is if you give them really good content and you let them know that you understand where they're at and you can help them get what they're looking for, when they get ready, it's you that they're going to come to, or at least it's going to be you that they are going to be thinking about. You're going to be in the running. Okay, let's all take a breath. Okay. All right. So we're going to circle back to human design here for a couple of minutes, and I do want to leave a few minutes for questions, I hope, at the end. We'll see. And I can go a couple of minutes after the hour if we want to do that. So get your questions your ahas ready, or put them in the chat or in the comments. Okay, so let's circle back to human design and where there are some supports in the chart for this. Now, when I say this, I'm talking about general places where there are supports in the chart. And it's important to remember that we all have the whole chart. We all have access to all of the energy. So whether or not you're defined in these places, doesn't really matter. What it is about your ability to cultivate the higher expression of the energies of these different gates here and channels, so that you can, that'll really support you in your messaging. Okay, so as I was just saying, it's one of the keys to messaging, one of the key things is for you to be able to get the message from your clients, because this is what your message is going to be based on. Get the message from your clients about what's going on with them. What are their challenges? What's going on? And then what is it that they really want, and your ability to be able to say that back to them. Well, guess what? One of the key places that enables you to do that is in your open centers and in your open channels and gates, because it's the place where you can feel their energy. And what this does is it makes you empathetic, because you can feel their energy, and makes you empathetic to what's going on for them. And if you can develop this into an enormous skill. Like, I know that I have an open emotional center. And I know that earlier in my life, it was actually a challenge, because I felt other people's emotions a lot and I amplified them. And I didn't always get why I felt like I had so much, intense emotions. But as I got to understand it more, and I learned more about emotions, and I also learned how to clear out other people's emotions out of my field, both that had been imprinted and as it came, what I was left with was this incredible ability to be able to feel what's going on for other people. And it's made me a really good counselor, a really good coach, a really good guide in my mentoring work. So this is a place where your openness can become a huge asset for you in being able to feel into what is going on for your people. So go ahead, go take a look at where you're open in your chart and see how that might be the case for you. So as we go through some of these other ones, again, it may or may not, being defined isn't necessarily what you need, because it could be that it's actually in it being open, you can really develop your capacity in it in a whole different way. Okay, I'm going to go kind of quickly through a few of these, but there are places that you can look at in your chart, and you can also kind of feel into for yourself to see what is your relationship to the higher aspect of these different gates and energies. So the 13 is the listening gate. I was doing an intro reading for a woman the other day, and the 13's in her son, her conscious son. And I said to her, the first thing I said to her is, do people like to confess to you? And she's like, oh my God, all the time. They always, I don't know why, but they always want to come and tell me their story. Okay. So this is the, and you can cultivate this into being an incredible listener. Having an incredible quality of listening that makes people just want to share with you. Okay, you do need to have boundaries around that. I mean, this person I was talking to, she said, yeah, I've really had to learn how to have boundaries because, I don't always want to hear people's stories. So you do have to have boundaries around that, but it can be a huge asset for you because people want to share when they can feel that there is a quality of listening. Somebody is really taking that in. And that's when people know that you're getting them, like you're caring about them. You're being able to receive what it is that they're sharing. This can be a huge asset for you as well as the places of opening. The 44 and the 26 are part of the channel of sales. But I wanted to talk about them a little bit separately. So the 44 is about creating the right environment. It's really about setting things up so that people will become comfortable to know whether or not they want to work with you, whether or not they want to invest in whatever it is that you're providing to them. So as you lean into that energy, you can start to feel, and it's an intuitive energy. You want to watch out for any fear that might come in here because it is part of the spleen. But, lean into the intuition of this because you can start to feel what do these people need in the context, right? What do they need in order to feel comfortable in order to make a decision to move forward? And then that connects to the 26, which is the gate of sales. It's also integrity. It's sometimes known as the gate of the trickster because when you're expressing the lower energy of this, you can be manipulative in sales. You probably have all experienced that. Maybe some of you have done it. I am not happy to say that I have done both. But I have learned more because I have the 26. I have learned more about what that energy is. And so it's really about being able to master inviting people to work with you with the highest integrity. And never trying to manipulate, never trying to coerce, being able to help people see what the benefits are, what the potential is so that they can move out of their scarcity or their fear so that they can move forward. Yes, you want to be able to learn how to do that. And that's why you want to be able to know what they're moving towards because you want to be able to speak to them about that and help them feel that because when they can feel that, that's when they're more likely to move forward. And so that's the kind of mastery in making invitations. But again, always with the highest integrity. The 4037 is known as the channel of the bargain. I like to think of it, particularly in this context, is the ability to create win-win agreements. Because when you're working with somebody, I just had this conversation with a new client yesterday where I asked her, well, do you have agreements with your clients? And she goes, no, I'm always, kind of afraid that they're not going to want to agree to it and it'll scare them and make them go away. I said, well, if that scares them and makes them go away, they might not be a good client for you, because agreements is where we create clarity, where we come to understand what it is that we are, how we're working together, right? And usually it's just writing down what you've already talked about. But you want to do this with the highest integrity. You want to do it with their highest good in mind. And the energy of this channel can help you do that where it's really the highest good for them and the highest good for you. So that's a great place to look at and lean into in the chart. And then just receptivity. And I mentioned the 2 is all about receptivity. The 55 is about abundance, but I mentioned it because a lot of times people are a little blocked around their abundance. So you want to be receptive to your abundance. And this is, again, these are all places that will affect your energy, your frequency, your body language, and your tone, plus the words that you use in how you are communicating with your people and letting them know that you really got them. Now, this is just a smattering of things in the chart, but I encourage you to go and check them out and see what comes up for you. All right, let's all take a breath again. All right. So I would love to stay connected with you. I know that was a lot of information that I went through. There's a lot more depth that can go into all of them. I invite you to either just contact me directly at admin@ostaraexperience.com. And I'm happy to answer questions that came up with you today, or talk to you about doing any further work together if you want to. And I also suggest that you go and register to do an intro reading with me. Like I said, there's a couple of weeks in October when I'm going to be doing them, but they're very limited in number. I can't do 100 again. And I don't actually know how many are in there. Maybe 25, something like that, but they go really fast, and there's people who weren't able to get into the last batch. So there may be like 5 to 10 of them. So do go ahead and register for that if it interests you. And if you're on there, then you'll get information about the course on messaging that I mentioned. It's called Messaging Made Easy, and it's much more in-depth about all of these different pieces and a number of things that I wasn't able to mention. And I will be doing an introductory webinar towards the end of October, so you can check it out more and just see if that feels right to you. Okay, that is what I had to share with you today. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of there and stop sharing my screen. And here I am back again. Okay. So I don't know if there's any questions that we have.
There's some questions and comments that came in on Facebook.
Great.
First, about mid-time in the chart of your talk, Tina asked, when you mention generators, you mean manifesting generators too, correct?
Yes. Manifesting generators are generators. Generators are generators and generators. And they're manifesting generators, but they're generators first.
Rohan asked, for a splenic projector with just 2 centers defined, how to remain unaffected by the heavy conditioning that may happen. Also, being a 2-4, how to look ahead at a career.
Okay, so yes, if you have only 2 centers defined, you're going to be very sensitive, regardless of what your type is. And so, it's kind of the $1 million question, right? Is how to dive into deprogramming and deconditioning yourself. I know that when I work with clients, I do that through breath practices and embodiment practices, and taking deep dives into different aspects of how the belief systems that you received while you were growing up that are still running programs in your mind. So those are the things that you need to deprogram yourself. But you also want to be able to target it, because you want to be able to find, and this is really true for everybody, is you want to find, by getting more clear about what the energy is of all the centers, where you're most likely to have your most powerful conditioning. Because, for example, I did a reading for a woman who was actually pretty defined. I think she had 6 defined centers, but she was emotionally open, and her conditioning in her open emotional center was so strong that she actually couldn't even feel the power of her defined centers. So so for her, it was actually relatively easy to figure out what their conditioning was, because the emotional one tends to stand out, but also she didn't have that many open centers. So if you have that many open centers, what you want to be able to do is kind of dive in and look at what are the tonalities, the flavors, the tendencies of all of the different centers, and be able to go, oh, that's me. Like it might be, let's say it's the it's the will center, right? And you're like, I'm always looking for recognition. I'm always looking outside of myself for me to understand my value. right? Or maybe it's your G center, and you're like, I lose myself when I'm around other people. I just kind of, I don't know what my direction is in life. I can't seem to really find myself. I get hooked up with somebody for a while, and then I get very, interested in what they're doing, but after a while, it just doesn't suit me anymore. So you want to get to know what the centers are well enough, and, working with a specialist can be, whether it's me or somebody else, can super help you with identifying that. And then you want to work on what's the most potent conditioning first. And so that will lead you through priorities, because in all likelihood, you've got somewhere that is more significant first. I didn't really understand the second one when you said 2-4 and how do you engage with life? Is that what it was, Cindy?
Well, there was a whole conversation between some of our people here, but Melissa said, replying to Rohan, said, I get it. I'm a 2-4 profile as well, and currently not working. Things in the past have not worked out well as far as it goes. I'm gun shy, kind of scared to make a move. So Rohan replied, again, same here. Tried different things, faced disappointment, scared to make a move. Also, sitting idle isn't really helping to pay the bills. It's all confusing. Then Barbara.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Let me make it all the way through. I mean, this is so.
It's okay. Yeah.
Then it might clarify things. Barbara says, hilarious. Another 2-4 here. We have lots of 2-4 profiles.
I'm a 2-4, by the way, so that's why I'm.
So you can relate too.
Yeah.
I've been hiding out for years, and I'm just beginning to consider stepping out again, getting invitations, and hence being here. Ha! Rohan replies again saying, really want to wait for those invitations. It's just you can't survive waiting. I mean, financially. And then to survive, if you need to work, what is the work one should do while he or she is waiting for the grand opportunity? And his final comment was how to keep waiting. You also have to pay the bills. And then if you have to work, what work should I do while simultaneously waiting for that grand opportunity?
Okay, great. Thank you, Cindy. And thank you everyone for your comments and your conversation with each other. So the first thing I want to say is I think about what a lot of you are talking about is actually has more to do with your type than it does with your profile. It may have to do with being a 2-4, but what you're talking about, I don't relate to at all as a 2-4. So yes, there's the hermit energy, but there's also the opportunist. I mean, the 4 is constantly looking for opportunities, and that's where the balance of the 2-4 is. Yes, the 2 likes to have alone time, likes to have her own space, likes to be engaged in her own activities, doesn't want to be interrupted, right? But the 4 is an opportunist, is always engaged in life, is going out and looking for, what's the next best opportunity for me to be engaged in. So if you feel like you've been a hermit, my guess is that you've got other conditioning, probably from your type and from your open centers, that are feeding your feeling of wanting to hide, because the 2-4 actually has both energies inside of it, and you're identifying more with the hermit than you are with the opportunist. So one of the things you might do is just start kind of playing around with being like, well, what does it mean to be an opportunist? How can I be, engaging with life so that I am like out there looking for opportunities and seeing what that's like. So that's one thing I would say. But then to get back to the projector question, because I actually think that's probably bigger for Rohan than the 2-4 profile is. And this is kind of the proverbial, challenge for projectors is the belief that you need to stay at home waiting. You don't stay at home waiting, okay? Let me just say that. Don't stay at home waiting for the phone to ring. You need to be engaged in life. Now, if you're no motors projector, which it sounds like you are, you also have to make sure that you rest, and so you are home resting enough. But you want to be able to be engaged in life, be engaged in the things that you really care about and that interest you, and that you're feeding those things that you want to be engaged in. And that's not necessary. You don't have to wait for an invitation to be able to, go into your being and be like, oh, what is it that really lights me up? What is it that feels good to me? What is it that I feel like, and you don't have to necessarily wait to know if you want to be in a certain industry, or you want your your job or your work to be going in a certain direction, because that's coming from the core of your being. That's not just coming from the outside as an invitation. Like, you don't wait for an invitation to know what you care about. You wait for an invitation to be able to move forward in order to make big decisions in life. So let's make a distinction there. But as a projector, your job is to get really involved in what it is that you're excited about, and to be able to nurture and cultivate that, and then to be out in the world and engaging with people and asking questions and just radiating that. And being able to, like, if you've had that hiding going on, you're going to have to probably do some work around releasing the conditioning that you have around that, because that can come from a lot of different things. And it is important to let that go, because you want to be able to allow your enthusiasm and your excitement and your engagement with what matters to you to go out into your aura and be out. And this is what we're just talking about around the messaging, is you want your energy and your frequency to be transmitting that, right? Because that's when you're going to be invited, is when you're transmitting that. Somebody's going to go, wow, what's going on with Rohan? I want to find out what's going on with that guy, because his energy is amazing. So, that's what I would say in kind of the big picture. But, if you need to get a job, if you need money right away, try to find something that you can feel good about doing. And it doesn't have to be the perfect thing. You know that it's going to be a kind of a holding pattern for you. But it doesn't mean that you can't go ahead and do some work. Hopefully it's meaningful for you. Hopefully it's not draining, because as a no-motor projector, you don't want to work 40 hours a week. For 5 years, I worked as a consultant in the field of community development, which I knew wasn't my life work. I knew, but it paid well. It was meaningful work. I was happy to do it. I was qualified for it. And it enabled me to spend time training myself in fields that then became my career. So I really want to give you permission and invite you to feel that you can engage with life in ways that are meaningful to you, and that's going to make a huge difference to you in terms of receiving invitations. Okay, is there anything else or any comment about that?
Well, Barbara replied again, my opportunities have been on the web, but no, my G and Will centers are very conditioned. Thank you, so cool. And then I'm not sure if you saw Maria's comment. Thank you, Maggie. Very valuable information and presentation.
Great.
Oh, Rohan said, thank you very much.
Good. I hope that was useful. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here today. And those of you who are watching the recording later, thanks for checking it out. I would love to stay connected with you. So just reach out and we'll do that. All right. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.